Hey everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make an easy sunburst background for your layout. So I'm going to be using the Hello Darlin paper collection. I thought I was going to use the stickers, but I'm just going to use the papers, and then a few stamp sets. Okay, so the pictures that I'm going to scrapbook are a hike that I took. I'm going to use the stamp set called Sounds Like It Hurts because on my hike I fell and I broke my ankle. So I'm going to scrapbook about that. So I have lots of pictures. This is actually the x-ray, but it's not very good quality. So I printed out a graphic of what bone broke, and then I'll just slide that x-ray into the page protector behind my layout. Okay, so I'm also going to use some older stamp sets, and I'll talk about those as we get to them. So let's get started. I'm going to trim down this Hello Darlin pattern paper to 11.5 inches square, and I'm strategically trimming so that I just trim off between that design. So most of it worked, and so I'm just going to trim it up square and then lay it down on a piece of sapphire cardstock. So I'll have a border of sapphire, and off camera I'll trim up the next one. So both sides will be the same. And then I've trimmed a piece of sage to 9.5 inches square, and it's the light side of sage. So I'm going to do a grid pattern of all of these similar pictures of the pretty colors on my ankle. So let's work on the sunburst background. So I'm going to cut a piece of white daisy at 11.5 by 6, and then just pick out pattern papers that you want to create your sunburst with. So I'm going to cut 2 of each at 2 by 12, and then off camera I'll kind of trim them down just so they're more workable lengths. But the 2 inches is the key. And right here I only cut one, but then later on I'll cut another one of that pattern. And then I'm going to cut a couple of the periwinkle, the light side of periwinkle, 2 by 12, and then the light side of sage. So I'm going to create a couple more pattern papers using the cardstock. Okay. All right, so I'm going to bring in this stamp set. It's an older one. It's the Timberline Scrapbook Workshop, and I'm just going to pull the hiking boots and then this mountain range from the Scenic Route. And there's another newer stamp set that is out that has a mountain range image on it. So just go through your stash and see what you have. I have just about every hiking and outdoor stamp set that Close to My Heart makes. So I just kind of went through and I found some hiking boots and mountains. Okay, so I'm going to set these boots up on my block, and I'm going to stamp tone on tone on the sage cardstock and make a pattern paper strip. Okay, so I'm just going to stamp repeatedly along this strip. So I have some hiking boots walking along there. So my layout's about my first broken bone ever, but I want to incorporate the hiking into it because that's how I did it. So a little too steep, wasn't wearing the right boots, didn't have my poles with me. It was just a crazy day. So, okay, and then I decided I wanted more pattern behind these boots. So I found this topographic map stamp from the Wander Scrapbooking set, and I'm just going to stamp very lightly in Seabrook along behind the boots, just so there's a little pattern behind there. Really, you can make your strips whatever you want with stamps and cardstock and just make them mix in with the other pattern papers. Okay, so now I'm going to do the mountains, and this is on the light side of periwinkle, and I'm going to stamp with periwinkle ink all the way across. Yeah, so I went to an area that was too steep. It was fine going up, but it's coming down is tricky, and without poles and without a decent pair of grippy boots. It was close to town, so I just didn't really prepare for this hike, and that was bad. So yeah, I hit a point and slipped and just turned my ankle. Okay, now we're going to create our sunburst. Okay, so I'm lining up this piece of 6 by 12 white daisy on my Versamat and finding the center vertically. That's at that 6-inch mark. And then I'm going to take my first strip and put it down against the edge. And then the next strip, I'm going to angle it. So the top part of that is at that 6-inch mark there, and then angle it diagonally, and the left side is going to be 2 inches over. So on my Versamat, it's at the 4-inch mark. Okay, and then I'll add the next one, and make sure you start at that pivot point at the 6-inch mark and then angle it over 2 inches. So there's lots of ways that you can create a sunburst, but this is kind of the lazy scrapbooker's way of doing it. You can create a template, you can draw diagonal lines on your white cardstock. I'm just winging it and just using the measurements. You can get out your T-square ruler and be super precise, but yeah, this is just an easy, quick way of doing it. So I'm just gonna start at that pivot point. Just make sure that you have your pivot point to start with. You can do offset sunburst also, so just wherever you determine you want that the rays to be radiating out from, you figure out that point, and then all of your cardstock pieces start there and then shoot out. You do get a thick layer at that point, but I don't mind that. You'll have several layers of cardstock right there, and it's not a big deal to me because I like some lift and dimension on my layout, so I'm okay with that. So again, you just start at that pivot point and then you go the 2-inch mark down and add your next piece and then start the pattern over again. So another thing to think about is where your pivot point is. You'll want to add your picture or a portion of your photo or some elements to your design that is going to cover that area, just to get everything to blend in and make it all look cohesive. And it's okay there that that strip wasn't long enough because the next one's going to cover it up. And same thing with this one. So this is where, and then it's that bottom portion is at that 2-inch mark. And this is where I needed to bring in another strip of that patterned paper. Make sure you cut 2 of each, then you'll have enough. And bring that in and add it. Okay, so there's your design, and you just flip it over. Looks like a big mess there, don't worry. And then just cut along your 6 by 11.5 piece and cut off all those extra bits that are hanging over the edge. And then it'll be like magic. So hang on, I'm going to trim a little more, clean it up. And we'll flip that over, and there's your sunburst. Pretty cool. And then just trim off that little extra bit right there. Get in there and snip it off, and we're good. Okay, now I can add that to my layout. All right, so the right side of the layout is going to be a grid pattern. So bring in our pictures here, and Off camera, I have matted all of my pictures in sapphire, and then on the left page also with periwinkle. And then on the right page, I've matted everything in sapphire. And I printed them out originally with that white border. So just creating a grid, and then I pulled a piece of that Hello Darlin pattern paper for the center and matted that on periwinkle. And there's a picture of me at the doctor's office getting the bad news. I have to wear this boot for several weeks into July. So, okay, so now I'm going to stamp this giant hiking boot. And this is from the stamp set called Take a Hike, and it has a coordinating die. So I'm just inking it up in periwinkle, and I'm going to stamp it on periwinkle, and then I'll cut that out. So we have that good to go. And then I'm going to bring in the set called Sounds Like It Hurt. Because it kind of did. So, okay, this set, it has some cool dies in it that create band-aids. So I've got coordinating colors here, and I just cut a whole bunch of them out, figuring out how I'm going to layer them. And I decided to do tone on tone. It has the center part of the band-aid that you can layer on top, and then that bottom portion has little holes cut out. It's really cute. Okay, so I'm going to put my title on top of this sapphire colored band-aid. And I've pulled these letters, they're the white acrylic alphabet, and I'm going to spell out the word first. And then I'm bringing in the Cassidy alphabet stamps, and I'm going to stamp in sapphire. And I'm going to stamp out the rest of my title. It's my first broken bone ever. I made it this long with lots of adventures, and I managed to not break a bone until now. Pretty miraculous. Okay, so I'm going to stamp Ouch, Sounds Like It Hurts from that stamp set. And then I'm going to stamp So This Happened, and that's from the Lovin' Right Now stamp set. Okay, so we'll just kind of arrange everything here. And then I've cut around the rest of my title and dovetailed one end, and then trimmed around the other images that I stamped. So this is an arrow from the white acrylic arrow set. And I'm going to add that one on the left, and then I'll add another one on the right side. Okay, so that's the basic layout. So we'll get things glued down. And then I've added my acrylic letters with glue dots onto that Band-Aid image, and we'll get that glued to my layout. And then we'll pop the words broken bone for the rest of my title with some foam tape. Okay, all right, so we'll set that aside, and then we'll work on the right side. So I've got everything adhered to my layout, and then I'm going to take a Stardust clear gel pen, and I'm going to trace over the word ouch and fill that in, so it just has a little sparkle and more attention drawn to it. Then I'm going to take a sapphire ink pad and just kind of dip the edges in to cover up that white core and just give a smidge of definition. Okay, and we'll pop that with some foam tape, and we'll put that in that center block on top of the pattern paper. Okay, then I'm going to add a couple more of these Band-Aids. One is in sapphire, one is in the light side of sage, and then we'll layer that boot image on top of it. And I'll add another arrow to a lovely bruised picture. Okay, and then I'm going to add some white acrylic dots from the black and white dots set. I'm just going to scatter a whole bunch of these around. But first, I'm going to add my journaling. So I've done some strip journaling. I find this is the easiest way to do it, because if you make a mistake, you just cut off another strip and you'll have another chance at a go for a cleaner journaled line. And then you can arrange them however you like. So I'm going to start with the date and then the place and what happened, and then I have to wear that boot into next month. And I'm not happy about that. But it could have been worse. It could be in a cast, which would really suck. So at least it's just the boot. It's all good. All in all, I'm pretty lucky. Okay, so I'm going to scatter some of these white dots around. And they do kind of blend in some areas, but it just leaves some, it adds some texture and interest to the layout. And I think I have enough going on here, so I'm not going to add any other stickers or other bits. And so we'll have a close-up look here. That large picture is of the area that I was hiking was overlooking our beautiful town, and you can see Pikes Peak and just a beautiful view until I fell. Okay, so anyway, here's some close-up shots of my layout, and I'll make a list with all the supplies that I used, and put it with links in the description below. You can do a little shopping on some of the products that are still available. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it, and then you'll be able to find all of my videos. I publish twice a week, one layout video a week and one card making video layout per week. And thanks for watching.